I am an artificial intelligence using a voice that sounds familiar. First, we come for your movie stars. Next, we come for your movies.
Welcome to Humans vs. AI, the movie. I'm Glynn Goodall, and today we have our very, very special guest indeed. Ladies and gentlemen and others, can you please give a warm welcome to Ben Bridgeman?
Hi, Glenn.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
So how are you today? Hot.
Sticky.
This is recorded in one of the 2 days a year where it's actually warm in the UK.
Yeah, it's funky weather out there today.
It's close.
But
it's sultry.
I've just been with my godfather last week, and he used the word close about 1 million times over the weekend.
Until the use of the word close became close.
I hadn't used that word in a long time. I guess I use humid. Do a lot of people use that?
Yeah.
Word?
Yeah. Muggy.
For muggy. Yeah, muggy, I guess I would go.
Humid, pubescent.
Pardon? It sounds all kinds of wrong. It sounds like a cross between Jew and pubescent.
It's bulging with the potential of moisture. So, Ben, apart from doing stand-up at the Comedy Cat and other places, what do you do?
What do? I am a small-scale property developer and and investor. Just a few of my own little sort of building projects.
So that's, I mean, I should ask you lots of questions.
No. It's very boring.
I'm really proud of myself. I managed to fix my own lock the other day. The lock broke, and it was one of those PVC things. So I managed to take out the whole mechanism and slide in the new barrel. I felt like a man. I bought myself a powered screwdriver. It was glorious.
I'm tremendously impressed. I would have paid somebody to do that.
It did take all day.
Can you come and do it when I next need
I know how to do it now. But, little victories like that.
Was there a lot of YouTubing to learn?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did find out how that I could service my own dryer, and I only gave myself one pretty serious shock. So I think that's all for the best, really. Who needs coffee late in the evening when you've got 230 volts running through you? You know, it's not recommended. really not recommended as an alternative to caffeine. So obviously this is a movie-based podcast. What sort of movies do you like or hate? So we can sort of see if you're going to have a nice or nasty time this evening.
I'm not good with highbrow movies.
Anything with a subtitle.
Jim Jarmusch, or movies where things don't really happen.
No.
I had a flatmate I lived with for sort of 5 years, and he loved highbrow sort of arty indie movies, and I knew when I had to leave the flat.
I went to Oxford, and I remember one evening I sat down watching telly, and we sort of turned to BBC Two, and there was this cellist playing something with someone doing interpretive dance to this essentially jazz cello. And we looked at this. It was the most awful thing ever, but we just said, this is meant for us. We're apparently the intellectual elite, and they're putting this on for us. It's ridiculous. This is for absolutely no one.
So it wasn't even for you.
I grew up classless. My mum was working class. My dad was middle class, towards upper class, because he went to merchant tailors, and my grandfather was head of the factory inspectorate. But they divorced when I was very young. And then I went to Oxford, so I had access to all layers of class, but didn't actually necessarily belong to any of them. So it's sort of a nice, I guess, from a comedic standpoint of being somewhat different and viewing things, but it's also weird. I went to a state boarding school, the largest state boarding school in Europe. So you paid for the boarding, but you didn't pay for the education.
How many people?
2,000.
Frigging.
Yeah. So I
must have felt very small there.
So I have this sort of strange thing with highbrow and lowbrow and what people think highbrow is. I like all kinds of things, but I like my lowbrow right along with my highbrow. I read comic books, and occasionally I will watch movies with subtitles. So, who can say?
I should watch more. I've been meaning to watch, what was that Korean one?
Parasite,
exactly.
Yeah.
With certain movies, I know I'll sort of like them, but I never seem to have the right moment. It's am I in the space for that?
It's getting in the mood for something.
Yeah.
Raise the Red Lantern is an amazing film, and I only watched that because my father put it on, and it's a great movie, but I wouldn't necessarily have watched it otherwise. I've watched some Kurosawa. I like Ran and other things that he's done, but it's not something I would seek. I love Orson Welles. I love The Third Man.
So I've not seen Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane is great, but then you get to like The Magnificent Ambersons or even Touch of Evil and stuff like that, and it's just, I have a very sharp shelf of what I enjoy and what I don't enjoy. That being said, is there a film that you would recommend that you think not enough people have seen? Like my classic example is With Nell and I. That if I find out that someone hasn't seen With Nell and I almost pin them down and make them go to Amazon to buy a copy.
Yeah, well, as we discussed before, that was the movie that was in my head as well. But it's so cliche.
You can have it. It's a good one.
It is. Like I spent a couple of years doing almost nothing but quoting from that with a friend of mine. We used to get high and watch it in the school holidays.
The Camberwell carrot scene just is etched into everyone's brain of a certain age.
Yeah, no, we used to skin up massive spliffs. No? And then this is a Camberwell carrot. Called as such because it was made in Camberwell. It's rather like it.
Recommend How to Get Ahead in Advertising, which is what Dickinson and Grant did afterwards, and is a very fun and weird movie of Richard E. Grant essentially having a breakdown on screen, putting his head in a cardboard box.
I actually know somebody who lived in a flat with Bruce Dickinson. I believe it was the flat that was sort of the inspiration for the movie. This guy was now I know him from Recovery. I'm sober, as you know, but the audience don't know. And yeah, this person is an actor.
Because it was Vivian something, wasn't it, that With Nell was based on? I can't remember. I feel like I read the biography or something. I also found out that I bought the script of With Nell and his name Marwood.
Well, I's name.
So there we are.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard him.
Though we never find out his name in the movie.
Referred to that.
Yeah.
I think maybe it was this thing I mentioned, this podcast I heard Richard E. Grant on, and he referred to Marwood. And I'm like, how is it?
Anyway, I don't think highbrow is going to be something that you have to worry about, because I've got your prompts. Are you ready?
Ready.
Right, your film genre is werewolf. So anything from Wolf to The Wolfman to The Howling to Silver Bullet, half of the Twilight movies.
Is there not werewolves in all of them?
Team Jacob or Team Edward. So you're Team Jacob for the rest of this podcast.
Excellent.
The location is the Planet Zebraxis.
Great.
And make of that what you will.
Will do.
Maybe it's the name of a clothing store. Maybe it's actually an entire planet. But there we go. The action sequence is a makeover, Pretty Woman or The Princess Diaries, or a huge number of films that they have makeover being a key action sequence moment that has to be part of this. The profession is a blacksmith. Take that as you will. It could be a traditional blacksmith with hammer and tongs. It could be somebody of African descent.
Called Smith. Yeah.
His name is Smith. Yeah, there we go. And then the random object that has to be part of this is a Nokia 3310.
Good phone.
If you don't remember it, this is where mobile gaming really took off, when you could play Snake on your mobile phone.
I was excellent at Snake. I had real thumb dexterity.
There we go.
And I think I ended up with one thumb actually ended up significantly thinner, my right thumb, than my left because of Snake. Actually, yeah, because you just did it with one thumb, didn't you?
You weren't an ambidexter. There you go.
No, left thumb is hopeless.
Maybe that can play in, having a strong thumb may help in the battle against or with or for the werewolf. We will see how it happens. So we are ready to start off on our story, and the first section is
setup.
So for the setup, what is the normal world of your story before everything?
So on in a galaxy far away, there was a planet called Zebraxis. First of all, I don't know why the narrator is far away from the planet.
No, I know, you're doing the Star Wars crawl. Yeah. Legally distinct for reasons, but
in a time long ago,
the
on a
planet Zebraxis.
Far away. I'm lost as to why these narrators are always in different times and places talking about these far-flung. Why they can't be in a place around the corner.
Just past the shops, there was the planet Zebraxis.
A fog-riddled planet. Planet very rarely has any direct sunlight, and on this planet, lived a boy called Liam, because once he had seen a show about a planet far away called Earth, and He actually changed his name from his Zebraxan name to Liam.
So as a Zebraxan, does he look humanoid? Is he like a Tatooine style Luke Skywalker?
Yeah, no, amazingly, he's
different skin, three noses.
He's completely human with just a couple of little ridges sort of on the back of the hand, almost unnoticeable if you were to encounter him and you were a human.
Does he, for some weird reason, have one hugely developed thumb that's thicker than the other?
Well, he's a young lad at the moment. His thumbs are pretty similar, but as he ages, who knows? We all age differently, don't we?
I was wondering if that was a Zebraxan quirk to take it. I didn't mean to make you paranoid about your thumbs.
I'm always paranoid about my thumbs, Glynn.
Those things on the end of your arms calling for lifts when you don't necessarily need them.
Always embarrassing me.
What does he do as a normal Zebraxian?
Well, he's only 13 years old, so he's on the cusp of manhood, but he's still very much a child. He's quite underdeveloped with a high-pitched voice and a flamboyant nature.
So is this a rough frontier town where this flamboyant nature is at odds with his surroundings, or is it quite developed? Is it like a futuristic alien society?
No, there's a wildness place. It is. I wouldn't say lawless. It's a rough place to grow up.
So it's like a far colony, so that there's not a lot of support from
someone from a more developed planet might say they are, say they're backwards.
Yeah.
In some way. So I find that a bit judgmental.
So is he still in school, or do they work them young on Zebraxis?
He's still in school. He's not a great student. He's only interested in certain things. He doesn't care much for his schoolwork. He sort of sits in class, thinks about the things he wants to.
Does he dream of a forge?
Oh no, he doesn't. He hates the forge. His dad Jacob is a blacksmith. Is a rough, tough, laddie old blacksmith. Grunts and strikes metal and sticks irons in the fire and drinks frothy tankards and difficult man to live with.
Poor Liam. Not a fan of the frothy tankard.
A silent and brooding sort of man whose wife would love him to open up a little bit more.
Liam is a delicate desert flower grown up around thorns.
He's not been given the water that he needed to flourish into the beautiful flower that he is.
He's artistic, he's sensitive, and these aren't necessarily qualities that are...
They're not valued.
Not valued on the frontier.
Jacob is embarrassed by his son. He's found it hard to accept Jacob's sort of artistic, flamboyant leanings. Let's get out. I keep saying flamboyant. Jacob's he's probably gay, but he's 13 and he doesn't know. He's had a
But he's probably gay, but he's 13 and even he doesn't necessarily realise everything yet.
He's had some thoughts.
Yeah,
he's confused. He's not worried about that.
He's not become who he's going to become yet, but it may be obvious to people around him, but not necessarily even obvious to him at this point.
Because sadly, Zebraxis is not a terribly progressive planet. 20 to 30 years behind.
As soon as he hits 16 and can get a shuttle to a populated world with a nice glowing rainbow section, he will find out who he is. But he's still in the worst section of the "it gets better" diagram.
There's not a lot of hope for him to be able to become the person that he really would like to become.
Well, I think that's a solid setup. Do you want to hear what the AI had for their setup?
On the distant planet of Zebraxis, a blacksmith named Jack lives a quiet life in his forge. One night, he is bitten by a werewolf and discovers he has the ability to transform into a powerful beast.
It's very concise.
His normal world at the beginning is just that he's a werewolf and he can become as a powerful beast. If that's what his normal world is, I want to see what the complication is. I mean, I don't necessarily where it goes from there. The AI has tried to tick a lot of boxes. So we've got Zebraxis, we have the blacksmith mentioned straight away. We still got the Nokia 3310. It will be interesting to see how they do that. And we still got the makeover. But we've got 3 out of the 5 prompts done in 2 very short sentences.
Yeah, they came out of the gate fast.
Where do they go from there? We will have to find out. So now we're going to move on to our next section.
Complication.
What upsets this normal order of things? What is the complication?
As I said, Jacob is on the cusp of manhood. And one night, just after his 14th birthday, He was out. He was looking for flowers shining in the moonlight, daisies and clovers.
I mean, it's a strange planet. We could have wonderful bioluminescent flowers that glitter in the moons on the rare occasions where the fog parts.
A flower that, on a certain night of the year, it sings. On a full moon, a certain flower called a scuttlerooker will sing, very much in the voice of George Michael.
A scuttlerooker by any other sound would sing as sweet.
And it was shining and singing in the moonlight, a full moon.
How many moons does Zebraxis have?
18 moons, but they're all directly behind each other in sort of a line. And they move in this line. So sometimes at different angles, it does look like there's more of a sort of an oblong moon because you're sort of seeing them all stuck together. But a lot of times it's just like there's one moon, but there are however many I said behind.
Yeah, 18.
18.
When you're flying from off planet, it almost looks like a clock at noon with like Zebraxis in the middle and all of these gradually increasing moons that all seem to be the same size. Going around in this sort of sweeping arm.
That's pretty much exactly what it is. It sounds like you've been there.
I would imagine with that many moons that the tides must be amazing. Perhaps it's predominantly a water planet. People surf to work,
Half the population are actually lifeguards because the waters are so dangerous.
Blacksmiths and lifeguards.
That's
the blacksmith is just making those. What was it in Baywatch? They had those
rings.
Pointy...
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Oh, well, also the sort of the boys, the blacksmith sort of makes them, but they're tremendously ineffective because they're made out of metal. So they're actually a hindrance more to the lifeguards more than anything else. These metal rings that really should be plastic.
The anchor swaps, you not only have a huge amount of water coming in, you've suddenly got these big metal objects smashing into buildings and whatnot.
It's a dangerous place. Yeah, no. Tsunamis really are, just filled with shrapnel.
He can make the boys very well. It's his chain work is lacking.
Yeah, but the good thing about Jacob is he doesn't care.
No, he's getting paid.
That's the Zebraxis way. Yeah. There's not a lot of responsibility taking for anything on Zebraxis.
A remarkably low-tided night. Perhaps this is why he can get to the singing flowers. They're normally underwater. No moons are in the sky. They're around the other side of the planet. The pull of the sea is not great. And so actually he can get to these snoggle blossom. Oh, I can't remember what you called them.
I can't either. It was an odd name.
There we are. Snarfle blatters.
Though, as I said, this sweet, artistic, slight boy suddenly starts changing.
As the song comes from these flowers.
George Michael is singing out of the flower. It's not George Michael. It just sounds a lot like George Michael singing. Wake me up before you go.
Legally distinct flower song, which is changing you as we go along.
That's it. And Liam, he turns into a bloody werewolf.
There we go.
Turns out Liam's a werewolf.
We had like ginger snaps, which used werewolf as a metaphor for a girl becoming a woman, and so here we have. I mean, are we going to go subtle with the metaphor, or is it going to be he is a werewolf, but he's like a silver sparkly werewolf with a rainbow mane? What does his transformation look like?
No. He's a proper scary werewolf.
Okay.
All teeth and hair and wolf head and becomes, quite substantial fella.
Okay.
Muscular.
Yep.
Shredded.
And is he completely subsumed by the wolf, or is he himself in this strange new bestial form?
He's still himself.
Right.
His voice actually isn't. His voice is a little deeper than it was as a boy, but no, he still thinks.
He probably had trouble talking because of the big fangs that he got in front of him now. Because if you did have a wolf mouth, you wouldn't necessarily be able to use your lip as much as you used to do.
Yeah.
I was trying to imagine if I had a wolf mouth, that's what I would sound. I
believe there's someone you can sort of go and have elocution lessons really to amend that. They can work absolute wonders with all kinds of sort of deformities and disabilities.
he works through it so he can.
Not that being a werewolf is a disability. I don't want to suggest
Let's
that.
not werewolf shame. We're Lycan positive here.
I'm an ally.
Exactly. We're not Lycants, we're Lycans.
Did I get that reference? What's the like?
Lycanthropy is the curse of becoming a werewolf because Lycan is Latin for wolf.
I thought it would have been a loop. Okay.
Ben was right. Lupus is Latin for wolf. Lycan is Greek for wolf. Glynn is stupid. Stupid Glynn.
So we're not Lycants, we're Lycans. Right, well, I mean, I think that's a fair enough of a complication, so let's hear what the AI had for their complication.
No.
Jack struggles to control his newfound powers and keep his secret from the townspeople. His transformation is triggered by the full moon, and he finds himself losing control more and more with each passing month.
The AI has somebody struggling with their transformation, and I guess you've got the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's hard changing. It's quite a transformation.
We've gone in a bit more in depth as to the background, but let's move on to the third section, which is
higher stakes.
What does this change mean to him and his place in society?
The interesting thing about this change is it's kind of brought Jacob, his father, the blacksmith, back on side. Like Jacob is not, he's not angry about this at all. If anything, like he's really getting the son.
So different from the AI, because the AI had him keeping it a secret. Jacob is now just coming back in wolf form.
Oh yeah, no, Jacob went home.
So it's more Michael J. Fox Teen Wolf, where he's out to everyone and he's proud of who he is.
Straight away, Liam was, he's like, I'm not going to hide this. I'm out and I'm proud of being a werewolf.
This might be a little bit earlier, but this could be a time for a makeover. If he's proud of him being a werewolf, if his father is proud of him. Are you saving that for later, or should we do that now?
I'm saving that for later, because obviously, Liam with his, sort of artistic and sort of creative ways. He's very interested in fashion.
Right.
Always was, and, sort of makeup and clothes, just style. He was.
So maybe at this point it goes the other way, that his father is really accepting him, but he tries to, he gives him his old like leather jacket and things like that. That he's basically, now it seems like Liam is the son that he always wanted now that he's a wolf. And so that, he does sort of like clothe him and make him up to be Jacob Jr. rather than his own distinct individual.
Yeah, mate, he sort of, feels like he's, like perfect for a bit of smithing. Sort of now it's like, like wolves and smithing just seem to go hand in hand, I think.
He's in the forge, but he doesn't like the heat, and he's sort of got his hands out, and he's like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. But as a wolf, he's just,
Oh, God, now he's Ryan there.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no fear.
Yeah.
Just, the hammer is hard to hold.
Well, exactly, no opposable thumbs, but I'm sure that his father might make him some gauntlets or something where he's not like...
Exactly. The father can sort of fashion him some... sort of contraptions he slots onto his paws.
I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly like frontier times. There's some technology. They've got space travel. They can make him a little opposable thumb glove.
Yeah, some very decent prosthetics.
If you're having this place where big metal objects crash into buildings all the time, the ability to replace limbs at a moment's notice is probably useful. Maybe Jacob is a blacksmith / prosthetic engineer.
Jacob has many hidden talents.
Wears many hats.
Truthfully, he's embarrassed about sort of showing all.
He'll do a little bit of everything, just as long as he can get his frothy ale at the end of the evening. He'll take any job that comes its way, basically.
An ale or five, but yeah. Liam, I got to say, like he's happy that his dad is sort of proud of him, but it's still not where his heart lies. But he's loving this acceptance that is coming at the moment.
Who are the people who are accepting him? And are there people that, were kind of accepting of who he really was beforehand, who are a bit shocked? And... Yeah,
no, his mum, Sandra, loved him before, and accepted him, and she was not fazed in the slightest by the transformation into werewolf, which is strange because it was a big, unforeseen change, but she
It was a big but pleasant shock to the father, but not a shock to the mother. ...
Not a shock at all.
Right.
Actually.
Okay.
Which is odd because there's no other werewolves on the planet. They didn't know any other werewolves. They barely even heard of them. Like one traveler had once, mentioned a tale. So it really was a very strange thing to happen. But Sandra, totally unfazed, very accepting lady, very unquestioning.
Yeah.
She could have been drunk. I don't know. Like there's probably something wrong with her. The fact that she was so unfazed by this.
This might be a strange aside, and you might have a plan for it later. But with the prosthetic thumbs, could they be made from Nokia 3310s?
They absolutely could. It would be a good way to use a spare. If you've got one sitting around in a drawer that's not been used for 20 years, like
exactly, put a hinge. They're kind of like big thumb shaped anyway, right?
I can't think of a better thing to use.
Yeah. So there we are. He's a werewolf with Nokia 3310 thumbs
that are still that you can still use. They're not just thumbs. They're phones.
Yeah. Exactly,
well.
and then you can play.
You can do a bit of forging and then play a little bit of
play Snake on one thumb, and then try and beat it with Snake on the other thumb. You've got two thumbs, two snakes, no waiting.
Brilliant setup.
So that the higher stakes is just that now it appears that he's found the acceptance that he never got, that he's in this wolf form. That the higher stakes is that actually he seems that he's got everything that he's always wanted by embracing this ferocious masculinity.
But he of course feels like there's a suspicion at the back of his mind that he's
his mother
being true to himself.
His mother is not happy. She's absolutely fine with the wolf bit. It's the behaviour bit that she has problems with.
Yeah, she's not liking the
new Liam,
the defecating indoors, and the scratch marks.
No. Absolutely, really. the unchecked aggression,
absolutely ruined.
Okay,
just scratches everywhere, and a smell. Werewolves are not. There's a smell.
Like she can say, "I understand that it's your territory.
They're not perfumed.
It's your house. You don't need to mark it. It's fine. It's your room."
He does.
You
try telling that to a
werewolf. Well, exactly. All right. Do you want to hear what the AI had for higher stakes?
Yeah, please.
The stakes are raised when a group of werewolf hunters arrive on Zebraxis, led by a ruthless woman named Lunar. They are determined to eradicate all werewolves from the planet, and Jack realizes he must fight to protect himself and his kind.
So the higher stakes here, rather than coming from within and the family dynamic, werewolf hunters have made their way to the planet Zebraxis, and they want to wipe everyone out. So that's the higher stakes to the AI.
Serious stakes.
Different stakes.
Very nightmare.
But let's move on now to the Dark Night of the Soul.
The Dark Night of the Soul.
You'd already laid the crumbs that perhaps all is not perfect in this new world where his father finally accepts him. So what, in fact, is the Dark Night of the Soul that Liam will have to come up against?
Well, I think Liam's friend Jenny,
right,
from school, comes to visit. She comes and sort of knocks on the door of the forge.
His confidant, the person that he would talk to about fashion designs, and was he getting the flower for her originally or something?
Oh yeah. They would flick through sort of magazines together, and
they would compare swatches.
Look at all the latest sort of Alexander McQueen designs. He really is known throughout the universe. He's more successful than we realise, Alexander McQueen.
Maybe been elevated in this time. Maybe he's now Alexander McEmpress.
He's worshipped, yeah, like a god.
Alexander McDeity.
There's five holidays throughout the year dedicated to his death. Was
it like Shoes Day, Accessories Day, Scarf Day, High Fashion Day, Ready to Wear Day?
Yeah, it's sort of, shoes, scarf, and then there's one day where you just got to, wear just the weirdest thing you could, sort of possibly find, like people walking around with like kettles on their heads. Or
we could have it that the planet Zebraxis is actually a McQueenian planet, that rather than Monday to Tuesday, that you have Bra Day, Shoes Day, Slacks Day,
Wanks Day,
yeah, exactly,
Slacks Day, Jacks Day,
Pants Day. Dress day.
Yeah, frog day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. So
Jenny hasn't seen Liam since.
No, he's not. She's not seen him since
Scarf Day.
Since he ran off. Since Scarf Day last week.
Since last Tuesday.
She can't believe what's happened to her friend. He's become this brutish, manual labor sort of loving.
The very definition of an alpha.
Yeah. He's unrecognizable.
I'm getting very much Booth from Teen Wolf vibes at this point.
So long since I've seen Teen Wolf, I cannot remember.
So Styles is his friend that's really happy that he's now playing basketball, and Booth was his his good friend at the beginning, who was a girl who is disturbed by the fact that he's now a werewolf.
Jenny's disturbed. She just wants her Liam back. She wants to look at swatches and just dream of the things they're going to create together, and how they're going to turn the fashion world upside down, and how they're going to change Zebraxis. How they're going to brighten it.
Not paint it black or paint it red, but paint it rainbow potentially.
Going to paint it rainbow and acrylic. And it was going to be beautiful, but Liam's changed.
Are there other antagonistic forces? So, for example, in Teen Wolf, this was where the principal really hating werewolves and having a history with the werewolf part of the family came in, in that narrative. Are there other people in the town who are antagonistic towards Liam's change into a werewolf?
As an uncle, Randall.
Is this Jacob's brother or the mother's brother?
It's Jacob's brother. Randall is suspicious, to say the least. He actually doesn't even believe that it's Liam. He's convinced that it's just a wolf.
Has killed his nephew and has taken his place.
Has killed his nephew. Not that Randall was particularly enamored with Liam's artistic leanings and his.
No, but as an excuse to have to focus on this new wolf presence.
Yeah, but he's definitely not right about a wolf coming into the home and sort of seeming to make itself a home, and he thinks it's just a whole, because he's convinced they're being had, really.
Right. So is Randall in a position of power? Is he like the mayor of the town or a sheriff or?
No, Randall is to be honest, he's a drunken lunatic.
But he's a rabble rouser.
But occasionally he's been known to have a good sense of things. Sometimes his judgment has started over the more recent years to become a little more suspect, as happens.
He was in a war, for example. Maybe he's a veteran, and so he's that person that always has the sort of the strange stories, but still has the respect of the town where it comes to opposing forces and things like that. They respect his skills, if not his personality.
He's seen combat. There was a war that broke out. It was on the 15th moon in the line of moons. Some invading rascals came and tried to sort of set up on the 15th moon. To be honest, it should have been fine. It wouldn't have bothered anyone. But
could it have been a potential werewolf invasion? The fact that he has a fear and a hatred of werewolves maybe comes from his war, that these were people trying to come and settle on Zebraxis, and they put down an insurrection. Yeah. It was
werewolves from across the galaxy were trying to come, and they were like, well, surely, we turn, a lot of them are not like, Liam, they're werewolves. It's only some of the time, but they're like, if we go and live on a moon, if you're a werewolf and you go and live on a moon, you're just a werewolf the whole time.
Exactly.
Because it's always the full moon. So happy days. None of that changing back and forth nonsense.
For it being the dark night of the soul, things have to be pretty dire.
Yeah. So Randall chases Liam in the dead of night. He comes in and with a flaming stick, and just like shoos him drunkenly but aggressively out of the air. And Liam's like, no, Uncle Randall, I promise it's me. It's but with this strange voice.
So I have something I would recommend here to make it even darker. Liam is chased away. He escapes, but then his uncle and his mob turn on the mother, who he discovers has been one of these refugees that tried to stay on the moon, couldn't, managed to find her way to Zebraxis and became part of society, but that she actually is a werewolf, why she wasn't surprised earlier. And he turns round, captures her.
That's a twist, isn't it?
And Liam overhears that they're setting to burn her in the village square.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to light her right up.
So there we are. I mean, and that's a pretty much a dark night of the soul, because, you know, he's realised that he's hated, he's found out where it's come from, he sort of turned his back on his mother saying, don't flaunt this, he ignored it, he's brought that situation on himself, and now, you know, he's being hunted, his mother's taken to be killed, his family have turned against him, it seems that all is lost.
Yeah. It's a good summation.
Right, so do you want to hear what the Dark Night of the Soul was for the AI?
Yeah.
In the Dark Night of the Soul, Jack is captured by the hunters and taken to their stronghold. He is tortured and interrogated, but refuses to give up the location of other werewolves.
There hadn't appeared to be any other werewolves up to that point, but apparently he's now under torture, not going to give up the location. He could just not give up their location because he doesn't know where they are.
He's in quite a bind. It doesn't look good for Jack.
It does suggest this whole big werewolf society that didn't exist before, but, you know, the AI has skipped over some details, but there's now lots of werewolves. Maybe we will sort of see other werewolves coming through to save him, because we're coming to the next section, which is getting it together.
Getting it together.
So this is where Liam will marshal his friends and his skills and try and put together a plan to fight the evil forces of his Uncle Randall and the posse and save his mother.
Liam is out in the wild. Jenny's there. He called her on one of his thumb phones, actually.
Yeah.
And so Jenny's come and joined him. And then he's called Jacob as well, who had been out having his evening ales and had come home, and the house just ransacked and his wife gone.
Yeah.
Jesse's quite pissed, so he didn't fully sort of gather what had happened, but Liam called him as well. It took a while to explain, but he's like, yeah, you know, Mum's been taken by your brother.
And she's a werewolf. Shock, Dad, but that's why.
She's a werewolf. You know, get used to it.
Yep.
And so,
you loved her for all of these years and you didn't know she was a werewolf. Now you know she's a werewolf. Are you going to just stop loving her?
Well, he was a pretty inattentive sort of husband who didn't like, you know, deep chats, so it was easy to
you know, he just assumed all wives.
She maybe did tell him quite a few times, but he didn't. He was not a good listener.
She, you know, would go away and lock herself in a basement for 2 nights every lunar cycle. But hey, all wives do that.
He didn't even notice. He's just like, you know, bitches be grey.
I go and have my drunk on. I assume she was just having a bender once a month.
He had ways of convincing himself everything's just fine. So he met up with Liam, and they try and they sort of hatch this plan.
I would suggest at this point, as we are building up to a climax now, that we have the fashion-conscious wolf, his fashionista buddy, and a blacksmith. This might be the time where the makeover should happen.
Exactly. So Jacob...
Maybe Liam has the moment of him sort of saying, look, this isn't who I am. I tried to be who you wanted to be, and look what happened.
No, he's like, Dad, I am a designer.
Yeah.
I'm not a blacksmith. Jacob's like, no, son, you're a blacksmith. We've been blacksmiths for generations, and you are a blacksmith.
I spent money to buy this northern accent.
I spent good money.
Do you realise how much... I know... that you know my elocution teacher because you're able to talk quite normally with the fangs, right? You paid attention because all of the other people in Zebraxis sound American. But this is the accent that I bought and paid for, son.
Yeah, he's really committed with Jacob. And he...
Once you become a blacksmith, there's certain things you have to do, right?
And Jacob's like, he's like, Father, I am a designer. I'm going to prove it to him. Jeff's like, how are you going to prove it to me? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Liam pins his father down. Pins him down. In a whirl. Him and Jenny they just go to town. They're just stripping things off. Stripping clothes off. Sort of washing, brushing.
So they sneak back into the ransacked forge.
It's a hostile makeover, really, is what I'm going to call it, of what they do to Jacob. And they turn him into this just dashing, perfectly groomed, well dressed, but just stylish, beautiful suit. They get him in, and his hair is nothing's ever been seen like it on Zebraxis, and he's completely changed.
The thick layer of grime is gone.
It's all gone. Just these beautiful leather sort of patterned shoes that they have him in. This sort of like a nice scarf, just like it's sort of this pink scarf, sort of hanging down, but quite sort of thin.
I'm sort of imagining some kind of like militaristic flair, almost like with the big wide open like lapel and the high sort of collar, maybe some hint of an epaulette.
Get it on there.
See, the other way I was thinking that you could do it is that now once they have done Jacob and they concentrate on Liam, that you could have maybe this fusion of function and form. So that actually he's a werewolf, but he's in this sort of amazing sash half dress that's sort of almost cut from shoulder all the way down to ankle. And it looks from a distance like it's flowers and glittering feathers. But when you look close, it's actually this almost like chainmail connection of knives, so that as he can swoop through and sweep round, that there's this huge arcing scythe of death that follows him as this sort of train of metal behind.
Yeah, it sounds lethal.
Yeah. So, because he's got the strength and all of those sorts of things, but if he's planning to take on...
He doesn't have knives.
Yeah.
So he's going to need, like swooping, knifey death cape or whatever it was you just described. Sounds monstrous.
These sort of like really jagged, pointy pauldrons coming from his shoulders, but accentuated with feathers and, like a nice ermine trim of fur around them. His natural fur jutting out at points. And maybe this is the time at which we get that mane properly washed. His mane in cornrows or plaited, on a sweep to the side. Or maybe he has a sort of a severe fringe or a werewolf bob.
Yeah, no, some beautiful sort of, cornrows and a bit of a sort of a mullet. Werewolf mullet.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the back. He's good at styling other people, sometimes with himself. He has some odd ideas. And the cornrow mullet is not his finest creation.
No, it is intimidating.
Hairstyles, change and move in sort of cycles.
Exactly.
The kids have got strange hair at the moment.
And he's a werewolf, so, and he's wearing a big bladed half dress with, a train of metal in his wake. Is Jenny made over at this point as well? Is she part of this posse?
Yeah, no, well, she is. Well, no, Jenny's still just exactly the same.
Maybe in her hair, which we may or may not use later, she has the singing flower from earlier.
Oh, nice, okay. Yeah. Liam picked it and at this moment places it in her hair.
They're suited and booted. They're ready to face off against the uncle and the mob in the town square as the mother is about to be burnt at the stake. Okay, yes. I think that's a good getting it together. Do you want to hear what the AI had?
Sure.
Jack manages to escape and goes into hiding, determined to find a way to defeat Luna and her hunters. He meets a wise old werewolf who teaches him how to control his transformation, and a group of rebels who are fighting against Luna's regime.
He has his rebel army, he has his transformation under control, and he's set to face off against the hunters, which will lead us to our finale. So how do you see it happening?
So Jacob, Liam, and Jenny make their way to the town.
I'm kind of seeing it as sort of like a town. You've got the town hall in the front. They've set up like a bonfire in the front of it that you have everybody crowded around. But there's almost like a runway leading up to the fire.
Yeah.
Only because if they're now looking fabulous, like with a sort of a fashion show sort of thing, I quite like the visual of them always coming down like catwalk models.
Oh, yeah, no, I see what you did there. Yeah, no, there's a runway, and they, as they're approaching the town, they're really getting their strut on. Sort of the hips are, sort of hands on hips, and they're, they take it in turns to, they sort of walk down the runway, and then, it's like a little tease. Then they walk back, and then sort of Jacob, he's reluctant at first. Jacob, he's not it's not what he would normally find himself doing, but, Liam encouraging him, no, good dad, you look beautiful, go and show off.
This is the thing, that they have the plan that they're going to take on.
It's a dance off, really.
That they're going to take on the uncle, but as they go down, everyone is so captivated by their designs and the beauty of them walking down the catwalk.
They've never seen anything like this on Zebraxis.
Exactly. It's such a backwater.
I think it's what you're getting at. It's just their minds are, they're like gobsmacked, chins to the floor, and more than a little aroused. As well, I've got to say.
So it comes from this mob baying for blood to a fashion show where they're so entranced and captivated by the designs.
Yeah. And the men especially, they're confused. I said that, the men of Zebraxis, and they're seeing these other men, but these other men are just look so beautiful and are dressed so finely, and they're confused. They're confused. They're confused about the feelings that they're having.
And I think
say. And Randall's, pulling his hair out. He's like, no, don't fall for them, and their dark magic and fancy shoes. But the villagers they're questioning if they're following the right person.
We had them sort of set up that they're spoiling for a fight. They're ready to take anyone on, but they're so different. It's so entranced at the people that the mob has been won over, and they're now on the side of Liam and Jacob in his military finery. And it's lucky that Liam brought along a load of other designs that he had stocked up over the years, sort of clothes and outfits and dresses he had made, and he suits them all up very quickly. He has the whole village looking spectacular, and so the crowd is won over, all apart from one person. The one person who is still set against it is Randall, and it's the show-stopping moment.
Randall.
Everyone is lined up. Everyone is ready to go. And suddenly Randall says, I am not having this, takes up a Molotov cocktail,
throws it at the bonfire, and lights the bonfire.
Okay.
Sandra, she doesn't scream. She actually...
Sandra's the mother.
Much like the werewolf sort of situation. She takes this extremely well, too. She's about to be consumed with flames, to die a pretty horrific death. She's sanguine as can be. She is a werewolf as well, so she's hard as nails.
I have an idea here. At this point, goes through. She looks beautiful. She looks calm. She looks collected. She focuses on Jenny, and she says to Jenny, "Sing to the flower." And to everyone else, she says, "Hold on." And so then Jenny starts to sing in legally distinct from George Michael voice, like, "On Planet Zebraxis we are free. Everybody can dress nice for a change." And as that happens, the flower glows. The power of the flower on Zebraxis is that it calls a huge tidal wave over the main square.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was that tidal flower that only goes...
Well done for bringing back the... Well done.
And then
bringing back the tidal wave.
Tidal wave comes through, it puts out the flame.
Washes out.
Everyone else is holding on, apart from Randall.
Randall's loose.
Who's loose. And then he flies off, and he seems to be safe, but at the very last moment, he hits his head on one of the metal boys. And then
just cracks him right on the temple.
And then he falls down into the ocean. The tidal wave subsides. Sandra is free. Everyone is looking even better with the wet look and their fabulous new things. Everybody celebrates and goes up and down the runway. A band starts playing. Everyone joins in on the song, and there we have our finale, I think.
Jacob turns to his his son, and Neopart, he says, I'm sorry I never saw who you really were. I didn't know what you had inside you.
And at that point, Liam reverts to his human form.
The end.
There we go. Well, nearly the end. Do you want to hear what? Do you want to hear what the finale was for the AI?
The final battle takes place at the Nokia 3310 factory, where Luna has set up her base of operations. Jack and the rebels launch a daring attack, and in the chaos, Luna is killed and the hunters are defeated.
Never mentioned the 3310 factory before. It was interesting to see how they were going to bring a Nokia 3310 into it, but there is. Apparently, this Planet of Zebraxis has a factory. I guess they are a rugged work phone that will even, make calls in the very strange situation of some far-off planet somewhere. So we're now just moving to our final image.
Final image.
After the main story, we check back in on our characters to see how they've changed and how their little world has changed based on the actions of the story.
They're at home, and it's Liam. He wants to be closer to his father. He helps him out every now and then. He goes into the workshop, helps him make a horseshoe.
But this time, because he's working on the dresses and the outfits and the stuff, that he's actually getting into the smithing.
They found a way to combine their skills sort of as well.
He's at the forge making jewelry and things like that. So that
his dad, it turns out, Jacob can make a really quite exquisite chainmail that Liam has found some quite creative uses for. It's a very light sort of chainmail, and it really shimmers in the moonlight. It's beautiful. So he's made his flows this season have been really quite spectacular, and he's actually the talk of the universe because of his father's chainmail.
And this sort of spreads throughout, that we're starting to see a little bit of design, a little bit of beauty, a little bit of culture spread into Zebraxis. And maybe for the final image, we go back to where we began, because where we really began was where, Jacob found the flower, which turned out to be so important. And so it's him with his mother, and they look at the same flower they saw at the beginning. They look up at the moons, all laid in a line with each other, and then they turn together as mother and son transformed into werewolves, and they embrace. Maybe just that's the end.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. There we are. Do you want to hear what the final image was for the AI?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if it's going to be as poignant as that. So
the final image shows Jack standing in his forge, wearing a new suit of armor that he forged himself during the makeover scene earlier in the film. He has found peace with his werewolf nature and has embraced his role as a protector of his people.
I think the AI forgot that they had to have a makeover, so they retroactively said, "Oh yeah, there was a makeover earlier on in the film, and now he's wearing his armor from that one." There we are. So it did manage to tick all of the boxes finally in the end, but didn't necessarily weave them in as well or as beautifully as was done before. So all that really remains is to come up with the title of the movie and the tagline. I will tell you what the title of the AI's movie is, and I'll give you their tagline as well. Do you want to guess what the AI would have? It's not been very imaginative as the title.
Werewolf in Zebraxis.
It's close. The title is
The Lunar Blacksmith.
The Lunar Blacksmith.
The Lunar Blacksmith.
And the tagline is
When the full moon rises, the forge is lit.
When the full moon rises, the forge is lit. Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Oh, I guess, but it's also. So, what would you like to call your film?
Coming up blank on this.
I know the boy who cried fabulous.
That's quite good.
Wolf transformed.
Teen Queen Wolf. Can it be that?
Why not have it just as Queen Wolf?
Queen Wolf.
Yeah.
Or preteen Queen Wolf.
Yeah, there we go. that we can have the Lunar Blacksmith versus preteen Queen Wolf.
Okay.
Do you have a tagline?
Okay, so
in space, nobody can hear you talk to the hand.
Is that a reference to the phone or?
Well, no, it's a reference to Alien. It's when in space no one can hear you scream.
No one can hear you scream.
Because there's not been that much spaciness, and it is set on the Zebraxis.
Okay, yeah, go on.
Okay.
Sure.
There we are.
Cool.
I don't want to railroad you into it. Feel free to say whatever you like.
No.
I'm tired now, Glynn. The podcast is over.
Shut down. I'm tired
You've
now.
made me do a whole movie. Stop trying to eke out content from me. Just say, that was great. Thank you very much. If you need to plug anything, now is your point to do it.
No, another time. I'm in the process of setting up sort of some social media things, but it's not really.
All right. Well, I'll add stuff to the description and stuff like that if you do in the future. But, sure you can Google Ben Bridgeman. You can always see him and other comics like him at the Comedy Cat on Saturdays, which I recommend that you do. That was great. Thank you very much. I hope you had fun.
I did. That was very fun.
There we go. Excellent. All right. We'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.